us tonight. I'll start the recording in just a
I
second.
oh, I did for you.
No, did you already start it? Dr. Schultz-Jones, Barb Schultz-Jones, and learning environments are my research area. And that might sound like it's a pretty narrow area of focus, but I think you'll see as we go through tonight that there's a very broad scope that this encompasses, and we are faced with some amazing challenges uh, today simply because of the impact of COVID. Um, I think, however, as we get into this, you'll see that COVID is bringing to light a lot of the things that we haven't perhaps been as ready for as we thought we were. And it is also making it possible to highlight where we need to spend our time and energy in our learning environments. So the first thing to think about is, what is this learning environment that we're talking about? And I've always been struck by how easily people bandy that phrase around. And of course, it can be applied to a variety of um, modes and a variety of situations, formal or informal, um, wherever learning occurs. So there is a diverse set of locations and contexts and cultures in which students learn. And that learning environment really encompasses the culture of a school or a library. And I know that many of you, excuse me, have probably heard the phrase, what's the climate at at a school, or what kind of a climate is established within either a school or a classroom, perhaps. And it is that idea of what's the temperature, what's the arrangement, what's happening within that environment that certainly the word climate refers to, but the broader concept of learning environment is more realistic, I think. So thinking about how we organize our educational settings, and then also how we interact within those settings. Certainly, we are affected by, school policies and government policies and governance structures. But ultimately, what we're looking at is what Barry Fraser described as this social, psychological, and pedagogical context in which learning occurs and which affects student achievement and attitudes. Now, when he came up with that definition, he was applying it to the classroom, and in particular the science classroom, because that was his area of interest in terms of the learning environment. And I was really struck when I read his research about the similarities with our school libraries as centers of inquiry, as areas where we want to encourage students to explore, to be curious, to enjoy themselves. So the learning environment, whether we're looking at the classroom or the school library today, is one that connects people. It certainly promotes engagement and collaboration, and it's flexible to the style and needs of all users. Those are big ticket items. And the essential elements of those are, first of all, interactivity. Secondly, that we can accommodate a synchronous, asynchronous delivery. And third, that we are able to develop a sense of community. So I'm hoping that already you're getting the sense that this is a very people-centered approach. And it's not that we don't want to equip them with the tools or, access to resources, but the ability for us to provide an environment where students and or teachers can interact with us and be encouraged to explore, stay curious, etc., is really paramount. And often, for those of you who've ever taken classes with me, you know that I like to remind you that uh, the school library is not about you. It's about the student. It's about the learner. However, it is you that activates this learning environment, that creates either the virtual online space, the physical space, the opportunity. You're the dynamic that really makes this all possible. So while it's not centered on you, it is activated by you. So the learning environment, again, not a small concept at all, a vital, vital way of looking at our school library. Now, the network of school educators has identified, and I've given the document for this, some really interesting recent research that was just published at the end of 2020, talking about what is it that's happening within schools and what are some of the challenges and opportunities that we have. So the top 3 hurdles they identified are digital equity, and first of all, and digital equity is more than just equitable access to quality digital technologies like high-speed internet and powerful computing devices. It's really all about the digital foundations, the conditions for learning and being able to provide meaningful learning opportunities. So on a base level, it is equitable access, but also equitable access to the skills to develop your use of this digital environment. The second hurdle, scaling and sustaining innovation. This is a big challenge for schools, as we all know, because risk-taking projects, wow, we're not there. We get very worried because we're talking about, taxpayer money, certainly. But we're also perhaps not as good at adapting what works well at a small scale and then scaling out, up and out. So that's something to think about in terms of some of the small ideas that we can work with. And then the evolution of teaching and learning. And I think we're all getting a very, very strong sense of the challenge here with our COVID learning environment. We're heading, hopefully, for a better balance of teacher and school librarian facilitation with student learning and a better appreciation for integrating technology and the learning sciences. All of this means that professional development is essential. And I think that's one of the big learning outcomes of the past year, which is we, in a lot of cases, have not been able to pedal fast enough to achieve that professional development so that we can, in fact, adapt, evolve our environment for sensitive and supportive pedagogical learning. It's a real challenge to be caught by something like a pandemic when we haven't thought that far out in terms of how we integrate our technology. And I know I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know. However, accelerators that they're thinking of in terms of this learning environment. The first one is personalization. And this refers to learning that is directed by the needs of the learner. And I seriously think this is one of the biggest challenges that we have, because when we are face to face with our students, we have a stronger sense perhaps of what's happening, how they're responding. The digital Zoom environment does not provide us with a comfortable way to operate in a personalized way. So what do we do about that? The middle one, the social and emotional learning, I think is absolutely critical. This idea of building skills for mental, social, and emotional well-being. And I was really struck by the news last night. They followed some employees of Irving ISD as they moved through the community and connected with students who hadn't been able to either make it to school or check in online or in any way stay connected to their learning environment. And this personalization of reaching out to not threaten or bully or intimidate somebody into coming back, but to find out what's happening. Are you all right? What can we do to help? And in each case also to drop off some food supplies. And I thought, now that's an educational community supporting each other. So making the time and understanding what a priority it is. Another accelerator would be learner autonomy, and that implies informed choice. And I think if you think about your school students and you think about their preparedness to make those informed choices about how they learn best and what would work for them, you'll realize that certainly that's existing on a continuum, but also it's not been the focus necessarily of our school and school systems. And when I take it right into the school library, I think, we perhaps have the best opportunities within the library to cultivate that informed choice. So something else to think about. And then the top three technology enablers. First of all, digital collaboration environments. And this means that we are able to support online and in-person learning, both synchronously and asynchronously. I think that's been a big hurdle that people have been dealing with. The idea of untethered broadband and connectivity. Just today or yesterday, The FCC, the Federal Communication Council, just rejected a call from educators to limit access to one of its broadband services to educational institutions. And I thought, well, that was a pretty clever idea in any case, to try and deal with that bandwidth issue. So if you were in fact able to provide an actual education broadband service, that would go a long way to assisting. We'll see where they go next with that. And then this idea of blended learning tools, being able to strategically integrate them as appropriate. And again, professional development, doesn't that just, again, make us shiver with anticipation, right? Because school librarians are very well positioned, and I know in many schools expected to provide that kind of professional development. So how we enable that, how we are able to provide those services becomes our challenge, our responsibility, and our purpose. So let's think of best practice, because one of the things that really struck me in looking at best practices, again, another one of these phrases that people talk about, well, is that best practice? Well, what is it? How do you know? Who is there a committee that nominates something as a best practice? Well, if you look at the definitions, it's a procedure, perhaps that's been shown by research and experience to produce optimal results. So that becomes then a standard that's suitable for widespread adoption, or a technique or methodology, again, through experience and research. Best practices are commitments to using all of the knowledge and technology at one's disposal, and they don't overlook, which I think we sometimes do, that a lot of our existing practices already have a high level of widely agreed effectiveness. So we find this terminology in all sorts of fields: healthcare, government, education, etc. But I think this idea of research and experience means that we're not waiting for somebody else to do it. We are sharing what we know, and we are working together to develop those best practices. So let's talk about what best practices can involve at this point in time. And so I've identified 7 of these that we'll take a look at. So the first one is open communication. And this really means making yourself available, whether you are teaching in a classroom, you're supporting teachers with materials, you're providing a concierge school library service, you're adding resources that you haven't had before. Maybe you're providing curbside pickup. You're operating as an engagement coach and also an engagement facilitator, right? So you're encouraging ways of people connecting. You're also providing some tech support for teachers. This is just a huge area of feedback that I've had in terms of school librarians really being called on to help set up a lot of the online delivery that teachers really haven't been prepared for in a lot of cases. Also, developing video tutorials on how to do research and perhaps some media literacy topics. There's a wide range of things that can be packaged and made available. Um, Learning support for students. And I think this one is possibly the most challenging, because when we are physically at the school and in our libraries, welcoming and encouraging people to come in, um, they will over time get the hang of that and stop and visit and develop a relationship with you, and you'll have an opportunity to learn about them, learn about their interests, learn how to juggle more than one student who needs some support. Not so easy in an online environment, right? So if our learning environment is going to be nurturing and supportive, we need to be able to figure out how we make ourselves available online, whether we are scheduling time when someone can contact us, or we're reaching out and letting students know that they can contact you, finding a way to let everyone know that you are still available even though you are online. And then learning from others, because, and I'm sure you're all having this experience and have been over the past year, where you've all had to come together and share some ideas about what to do in various situations, and learn from other school districts as well, perhaps even as other states. So the networks, our personal learning networks, become incredibly important in making ourselves available to learn from others. So again, this is people-centered, and there's that same group, right? Connecting people, promote engagement and collaboration, and providing flexibility to the style and needs of all users. Interactivity, synchronous, asynchronous sense of community. Let's see, how can we do that? Okay, so we're going to have to figure out some scheduling issues, reaching learners at the point of need. Is the library open as usual? Is it a closed and virtual space? Is it enhanced somehow? Is it a hybrid model? Have you been reassigned to teach? In which case, how can you manage all of those, making yourselves available and not losing your connections, and being able to provide that kind of welcoming feeling. So we'll take a look in a minute at a couple of sites. The budget. It's always, money is always an issue, right? So you had some varying amounts of pre-COVID dollars, and now you're going to be making adjustments, have made adjustments. The interesting reaction that I've seen has been to ebooks, simply because we can make them available. This in many ways has been an opportunity to place a digital book in someone's hands. Hard to recognize various learning styles, isn't it, when ebooks are the best that you have going at the moment? So can we also provide the audible audio version? Because we know research tells us that struggling readers benefit from being able to read and hear at the same time. Are there perhaps times when you could have that kind of a community book read together, that kind of thing? So how your money is spent, where it's spent, has certainly changed, but staying focused on this variety of learners is really important. Now, let me just see. Oh, look at that. I'm going to be able to do this. Access to resources. So we're certainly talking about promoting digital services, a variety of settings, providing training, and providing time for personal contact. So you are a resource as much as everybody else is. Okay, so let's see if I can do this without making a complete mess. And we'll go over and look at the leaf. There we go. Can everybody see that? Or has that now disappeared because I didn't share?
At the moment, all I can see is your PowerPoint still.
Nope. Wait a minute. Let me share the, oh, wait a minute. Share the screen. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a school district in the Houston area, and one of our adjuncts has provided access to this and used these library home pages in the past. So I thought it would be very useful to, and this is, again, best practices, what works best in your situation, in your context for your students and teachers. One of the things to notice is, first of all, this set of resource tabs, and it's taking you to lists of resources. Great start. It would also be helpful. And let me just, there we go. So as you can see, one of the things that just always gets my attention is the bullying prevention resources. So there's lots of things here for people to access and read about. Same thing for family, staff, and community. Now, what we are doing here at the library homepage is shifting down, and you can see all the different buttons, suggest books, whatever. So let's get us into, where did I get, come on now, go into, wait a minute, there we go. That'll be it. Nope, sorry. Let me get back. They have a, they had, here, let me start it again. There we go. Shouldn't be that difficult. Welcome to the library, open the door and explore. Okay, so we can't get there in person, but we can visit virtually. So we open, sorry, open the door. Take some time to explore, and you can see some links over here. There's a Twitter, all of those. And then we have a set of slides that we can advance and take a look at. So we have a variety of these slides that are going to provide lots of different information in some fun and entertaining ways. And I think that as you become more familiar with thinking through how your library could look, that this becomes a very creative and fun way to engage with students. Here we have, yay, contact your librarian. And you can see some of the, various music images. So we got resources for research. And this is all set up as a slide show. So you can go through all of the various pages. Now, designing this, thinking in terms of what it is that you want to present, how you want to organize it, how you want to make it accessible, is really important. And luckily for all of you, it's also the subject of next month's webinar, when Dr. Smith is going to take everyone through setting up one of these Bitmoji sites. Because I think that this whole idea of where resources are available in terms of access is really important. And being able to find those links, being able to locate quickly each of the things that you want to find without someone, kind of getting tired and turning aside, is important. So look at that. They've even got. Now, one thing that could be added would be some professional development, perhaps. So it could be a teacher page, and possibly a teacher page that they log into for assistance, and also for some ideas on how to structure lessons, that kind of thing. Make yourself available through that. I think that would make a great addition. Okay, so just to kind of give you an idea of what is possible, organize being the key word there. So you want to be able to provide access to resources and make it easy to find, make it easy to understand. And if your audience includes perhaps some certainly reluctant readers or struggling students, maybe you need to also have a page for parents or a link for parents to get in touch with you. So, think beyond just our initial way of operating within a school library. Providing training. So whether it's tutorials or can you do it on demand? And one of the things that's very difficult to identify as a best practice is this idea of access to you in every situation, because every situation is so different. So the idea of you paying attention to what's working in your area is essential, so that you're not trying to copy something that isn't working for somebody else. So staying organized is another important aspect here. And being able to facilitate that communication and learning, whether it's with a Google Drive, whatever, and perhaps you are distributing the tools, right? I know some school districts did move to one-to-one simply because of this challenging situation, and it became the school library that coordinated and distributed those laptops. The other thing that has been distributed is the hotspots, right? I think it was Mineral Wells, the library group out there. They had been making hotspots available for the last few years, actually. So they were well positioned to fill that gap. Resources, reach out, and there's a whole list here. The first one, which doesn't have a link, is your curriculum map, because that is your starting point. What's needed? Where will you be needed? What can you do to connect at the right point in time with the teachers and the students as you are needed, as they need resources? What can you prepare ahead of time? And then School Library Journal itself is giving free access right now. So you can access all of the articles, and you can be sure that people are talking about things that they're trying and sharing ideas through the journal. I think that was really generous of them to provide free access so that their information is more accessible. AASL has free resources. The international group has free resources, and so does the Texas Library Association. So instantly, when we got into this situation in March, that was the start of all of these collection points of resources, which I think really does speak well for libraries and our community of colleagues. So, backup plan, right? That means that you are definitely in need of something besides your own resources. A public library, how can you connect with them? What about the school district librarians and your administrators and your personal learning network? And if you don't already have one, then, and I can't believe that that's the case, I would imagine you've developed one over that last year. So I think that as school librarians, we are very well positioned for leadership in this situation because we have this service orientation. We are flexible, enthusiastic, all of these wonderful things. And we are people-centered. So taking all of these skills and listening, watching, responding then becomes the way that we start to try some things out and develop our own set of best practices. The other thing that's really important, and I know you've already reached this point, recognize the stress. So be sure that you have an outlet to release tension. And that includes talking with friends and colleagues, and be sure that you're designing a space and time for your family and for yourselves. Most importantly then, learn from this experience. Recognize what's happening, what's working, what's not. Yes, there's going to be some experimenting. Everything we try isn't always going to work. And that's because we've got such fluid situations, right? But all of our best practices evolve from that experience and from research. So start with what you know works best, and then evolve it and adapt it, in your situation. Because you're basically then creating some wonderful best practices to share with others and be able to describe the circumstances in which they are successful. So I think we're going to have a lot to learn from each other as we wrap up this spring semester of still being in such a trying situation, right? Where from one minute to the next, things can change. So all of us, I believe, in the fall semester, were very hopeful, thinking that with vaccines, we'd, be in good shape probably by March. And uh, nope, that's not going to be quite the way it plays out. So uh, we just keep working with what we know best and moving forward. So I think that in terms of the virtual environment, what Dr. Smith is going to be doing next time and giving you more hands-on real experience with something that is tried and true at this point, although still, definitely evolving. And in all of this, I really encourage you to stay open to a lot of feedback from the students, from the teachers, from each other, because that's how we sometimes hear those kernels of not just hope, but opportunity for us to step in and help out. So Dr. Smith will be coming up next. And then finally, as an opportunity, we encourage you to think about our International Association of School Librarianship annual conference. It was intended to be in face-to-face in Denton last June, and it has now been rescheduled for a virtual gathering in July of this upcoming year, and very reasonable registration. We're really excited about bringing school librarians together from around the world. And I think in terms, again, of learning from each other, best practices, there'll be some great opportunities with that. Okay, so thank you for your patience. And I'd be happy to have any questions. Oh, I'm just reading some of the comments. Oh, good. Okay. Jenna has just said familiar with the Bitmoji classrooms, but yeah, Bitmoji library. It is cool, isn't it? It's a great way to, again, provide somewhat of a natural environment. Not exactly the same, but I think it's also possible to have some fun with it, but it also demonstrates that that caring. So anything that you'd like to ask? How about things that are working well for you? In terms of the Bitmoji, Dr. Smith will be the one that has the software and no, it was not designed by vendors. It was definitely done in-house, definitely. So she'll have all of that next month, which I think, we're kind of a nice pairing of presentations. Yes, Bitmoji is next. There's no way to cover all of it in one. And the other thing I'm curious about is, how are you all doing? What kinds of situations have evolved for you? Are you all operating at the school? And you can put your mics on if you want. Oh, excellent. Yeah, Region 11. Good, good. Whose ever mic that was, it wasn't happy. Okay, El Paso, most districts are back with students. Boy, now El Paso really was hit hard by COVID. So that's an interesting situation. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. We were we hit our bad spike late October into November. We were set back to return with students in October, and it hasn't happened yet. It'll be students will return next week. We've had 2 weeks of just staff in the building. Things have balanced out a bit number wise, but it's still a little touch and go and scary.
Yeah, and I think it's really a concern in terms of student learning, isn't it? Because I think nationwide, everyone's talking about the slide. And I think what I heard yesterday when I was looking at this was that it's almost a 50-50. 50 are advancing and doing fine, but 50% are really struggling and not doing as well. And I think in some ways there's going to be some good things that come out of this. The assumption that online learning can completely replace face-to-face in a K-12 environment is not going to be, I think, upheld after all of this. We have had a lot of experience with, online delivery and online learning, but we're dealing with adults yourselves. And you've already gained social skills and, a sense of your own community. But for kids who are learning all of those, wow, that's really difficult to do. So have you taught? Have you been teaching, Janine, or are you?
Myself, I am still teaching kindergarten. I'm still in the classroom. I didn't want to jump into another change on top of all this change. So
yes, I can understand that.
Best to stay where I'm at. It's weird. So I see teaching happening. I see the kids, and I think learning. But I think because I have kindergarten, I'm. It's kind of luck of the draw because they're so young. They didn't really come with gaps like you're seeing in the upper grades.
Right.
But you're right. The point you made, it's kind of like the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. I still see the highs and the lows. It's just it's much more obvious now. There's not a lot of kids in the middle.
Yeah. And so, this differentiation, which we have tried to do, I think there's a lot of attention on that in the last few years. This is, will give us more insight into how that can possibly work as well. But the digital divide, which, of course we all understand, but that's just, I think, a really disheartening part of this is if we're going to have to rely, even for short periods of time, on that digital environment, then it needs to be strong, it needs to be robust, and it needs to be available for everybody, which, seems to be a huge, still, it, gives us something to work on. So Diana is, okay, so Carolyn, library still open as usual. Oh my. Interesting, okay. But you only have seniors.
You can hear me. Yes, because I work in another region actually, and then we have students having exam as well. So students they're trying to limit the hours they're on campus, so we only have half day, but the senior forms are still here.
Okay, okay.
Okay,
And
can you
Diane,
hear me? Yes,
I
I
can
hope
hear
so,
you.
right?
Yes.
Yes.
Carolyn, can you tell me where you are?
I'm in Hong Kong. I work in the IB school.
You're in
working
Hong Kong. Yeah.
Yes, in an IB school. So basically, they're having the graduating classes are having a mock exam right now, and then they're handing in their exam essay. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, Carolyn, I hope that you're able to join us for the IASL conference.
Yes, we have a group of teacher librarians and librarians in our network from English-speaking schools.
Right.
Basically, most of them are international schools, so we have talked about it and then try to encourage teacher librarians to take part in the coming conference. Yes.
Good, because we're working on how to handle your registration so that you're as a group. You're recognized as one group.
Yes, we have got that email from the Alice group and then the code for groups enrollment. Yes, we have received that yesterday. Yes, thank you so much. Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah, and this is going to be kind of fun because we have software called Event Mobi, and we're hopeful that it's going to make it a lot easier even than Zoom to have conversations and connect with people. So I think it's going to be really fun to connect around the world. So it was always fun in person, but this is going to be great as well.
Yes, I will talk to them about the talk we're having right now, and hopefully they could have a look and maybe a little bit kind of like taste to see what you might be sharing at the conference.
Good.
And that would be
excellent.
Good for us. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Yeah, on the Friday morning, we're going to have school libraries from around Texas do some tours of their schools online and be available for talking as well. So I think that'll be really helpful. Interesting.
Yeah, well, would it be like possible for us to join as well, like online? Is it?
Yeah.
A video tour or yeah, that would do. I will share if there is information, and I'll share that with my group.
Okay, about the program that I'm just talking about?
The virtual, is that a virtual library visit you have mentioned just now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, there we go. Okay, so if you go to this link.
Oh, I see. Yes. Yes, I see that. There's IASL. Yes.
There we go. Oh, there we go. Okay, so now, so this is the school library video, and it's a competition. So any of you who are, this is for the school, Texas school librarians. So we want to encourage our Texas school libraries to enter the competition, and all the information is right there.
I see. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, normally, there was a normal at one time. Whenever IASL would be in a country, there would be a tour on that last day of at least one school. And so once we are able, once we were forced, but nevertheless able to go online, do it virtually, we thought, well, we should have more than one. right? And so we're going to make it the tour, virtual tour, and then the school librarians will also be available for discussion and, you know, interaction with everybody.
Yeah, we are very interested, I believe, because usually our group like join each other, gather together for a meeting once a month, but so that we could have a look, and we kind of like we have meetings at different locations, so it's kind of like we're having library tour all the times, but then it's all stopped since like last year. Yeah.
Right, right. Oh, I'm just noticing what Martha's saying about El Paso pods with students.
See.
Okay, for safety reasons. Yes. Now this is an an interesting issue about librarians not checking out books for safety reasons, and that isn't just, you know, about the actual process of doing the checking out. It's also how do you reintegrate those books and make sure everything's sterilized and cleaned and everything. So there, yes, there have been a number of challenges. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that, going physically to the various classes. Um, yeah, good. Because that's really it. You know, we have got to be able to make ourselves available. And I think that through this kind of experience, again, we will see the respect for school librarians rise as well. So not that we want it to always have to be as a result of adversity, but nevertheless, so as we progress, I think we will, as I say, have a lot more to share with each other. And we're really hoping that the conference is going to be a great place to do that. Hi, Martha, I can see you now. I'm sorry you can't see me. I've had the flu for 2.5 weeks. And,
oh, I'm so sorry to hear.
Yeah, just
It's just awful.
You really do not want to see me.
Yeah. You know, one of the things I forgot to add on is the counselor, to keep kids in the classroom during lunch.
Right.
We all have a schedule to go in and watch the children while the teacher leaves to have her 35-minute lunch. And so what the librarian told me is that, well, at first she got really bored right away, and she thought, I'm just going to go ahead and use this as an opportunity to go ahead and teach. So amongst it's because we have a lot of classes in my school. So throughout her day, she's physically going to the classes, but when she's substituting or covering lunch, she's also teaching to those classes, which she only has, like, I think she said 2 or 3 where she has to cover lunch for class. And she said that she's using that 30-minute period to teach kids as they're eating their lunch, kind of like a working lunch for kids.
Sure.
But doing those lessons, which I thought, that was phenomenal, because she's already there. She got bored, and she says, I'm going to seize the moment.
Yeah, and I think that's a great idea. And even something like a book talk or something, that kind of thing can be effective. So good. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. That's exciting that she's connecting every chance she gets. So she needs to enter the competition. Yay. Okay. Any other questions, concerns? No. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording. And thank you all.